I'll turn it over now to Artem Sopin, and Artem is a product manager for Edifecs and has been with Edifecs for more than 20 years. Currently, he works closely with Edifecs's Payer-to-Payer API solution. And here, we've asked him to present a working approach for the Payer-to-Payer API modeled on real-world scenarios that will help illuminate the attributes for both patients and payers. So with that, I'm very pleased to turn it over to Artem to tell us a little more.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen just a second. So the purpose of this session is just to walk through the payer-to-payer scenarios in terms of the rule, kind of how this scenario addresses the rule, and give some sort of educational session. I'll try to speed up just a little bit, taking into account I'm having a little bit less time, but anyway, let me get started here. So basically, first of all, there were challenges in terms of the data exchange between health plans. It's a non-standard transfer where payers must communicate somehow one to another and get access to the data. The second challenge is like finding out who is the member. And one of the critical pieces is how to identify which data, whose data I'm looking for. And once everything is accomplished, when you know how to connect, whose data you're looking for, then you need to grab this data and start the data ingestion. And within each of these steps, there are kind of multiple challenges. And with that, the very first, let me move on, the very first version of, like we call it option 1, it's still valid. It's basically PDEX ESTU1 implementation guide that explains what payer-to-payer is from this perspective. And I would like to highlight this is very first adoption of the IG. In this case, there are two plans, two payers. I call them new payer and like previous payer or old payer. The idea here is very simple. If member has his account at the old plan, so basically reusing patient access API. So if member still can connect to the old plan, that means he can log into the old plan and invoke the kind of payer-to-payer operation. So the key point here that the account is still valid, the member authorizes this access, and the data can be grabbed. So that's really easy. Moreover, what I liked about this approach, and I still like, that we actually reuse patient access API with this approach, which is important because instead of reinventing the wheel, we kind of rely on existing kind of functionality with patient access API, and everything looks good. But as you may see from my slides, there are advantages and disadvantages of this approach. And the advantage is obviously we can 100% uniquely identify with the member. How? Because we have this member's account at the old plan. It gives you 100% guarantee that who is connecting, you know this person, and that he allows kind of fetching the data from the old plan. The second advantage, we reuse patient access API. Yes, that's brilliant, because anyway, patient access API must be built for in order to comply with 57th rule. So why not just to reuse it? There are several disadvantages here and real life problems. The problems that I've got from several plans trying to use that. It's a member-mediated type of approach. Members are not reliable people in all these scenarios. Members forget their accounts, they never register accounts, and they actually really unreliable. Moreover, from the health plan's perspective, it's a very common situation when after disenrollment, when kind of this member is not with this plan anymore, plans just, deactivated the accounts. So this account management was a little bit a hassle. Still, the approach is very, very good. I still love it, but there is a reason why kind of DaVinci team and Mark moved towards like working on the second version of this PDX AG to kind of to cover this scenario. So let me move on here and see what and show you what's the difference. So with new PDX, and by the way, commenting about the rule, the statement in the rule, it says for the kind of current implementation, this what was shown in the first part of the presentation by Shana, there was like a diagram, like a table with the list of required AGs. And if you look back at the recording, you will see that there are some requirements in terms of US core usage, like a version and stuff like that. But basically, overall idea that it should be API and it should be FHIR-based API. However, if you go to the rule, there is a statement about the recommendation. Recommendation most likely means in some time in the future that will be a mandate on that to use option 2 PDX STU2 implementation guide. So now there is a reference as a recommendation to use it, even though for now you can use like first option. And the key point in the second option is that actually this process doesn't require any old plans, like a login password, any account at the old plan. The idea is different, that during the enrollment process with the new plan, which is the most logical time to do that, a member can be just prompted for a consent. Think about it as a question during the enrollment process. Hey, what is your old plan? And you say, hey, this is my old plan, this is my old insurance card information, this is what I have. And during this process, you may be asked something like, hey, do you want me, like a new plan, to grab information from the previous plan? In the rule, it's called opt-in. So you basically agree with this idea that you agree, okay, yeah, I allow this new plan to grab the data from the old plan. And from technical perspective, this is what Mark referenced as a consent resource. So behind the scenes, there will be consent resource created and submitted to that old plan. It's basically item number 2 on my diagram, saying, hey, but from business perspective, you may think about it as like a sort of electronic signature where you say, yeah, just I want you, old plan, to share my data with my new plan. So, and that's why I put all these items into advantages. And very important that now this interaction can be initiated by the payer, and there is a certain time frame when you can do it. The rule says opt-in must be offered no later than 1 week after enrollment, which gives just a little bit of flexibility from the technology perspective to the payer. The payer now, the new payer, might collect multiple consents from multiple members, and schedule a time when to go there and pull, because no fresh token is required, something like in the previous scenario. So basically, there are some variations when and how to do this. Disadvantages that we have for now, I don't call them disadvantages that much, but I need to bring something here because there is a reason, there is an active work on a continuation of this IG. And one of them is that, yeah, we have to do a member match. Basically, we have to look for a member at the old plan, because now we don't have any active accounts. We don't use active accounts anymore. And the algorithms might be quite sophisticated, and in certain cases, like the match might return you, kind of not return anybody. You might not find, someone at the old plan, theoretically. And still kind of current version of IG is scoped to a single member. And this is the primary reason why there is active work right now. During the DaVinci calls, we are kind of looking for ways to create a group resource, basically to create, like, attribute multiple members right now and say, hey, I have enrolled 1,000 members in a new plan, and I see that 500 of these members belong to the previous plan B or something like that. And I'm going, instead of like just pulling one by one, in the new version, what we are looking at and what Mark has been talking a lot today, that actually we can just say, hey, give me all data for these 500 members. And here's 500 consents from all these 500 members. So this is going to be a newer version than this one. This one is still scoped to a single member. The actual scenario that we have is, of course, kind of pretty obvious. The kind of member just changes his plan. The reason for that is in my on my slide, member goes from one state to another state. I have these made up plans like changing Wise Health plan to a Great Health plan. People may change plans due to any other reasons, but this is kind of the main trigger for us. And changing a plan means a new enrollment to a new plan. So that's why I was referring an enrollment process. From members' perspective, in the latest AG, the steps that are required is basically during the enrollment process. It can be done any kind of, the mechanism is not described. This is up to a plan. You might have a new account created, member logs into a new plan, you prompt for like, hey, finalize your enrollment information, give us details. And during this kind of like a process, you may ask for like a consent to go to the old plan and execute payer-to-payer. This is how we see it, and that's why I say the most logical piece of and the time when to do it is enrollment process, because actually this is the time you interact with your members. Once you have finished interacting with your members, usually very often you never see them until the moment they need something, you know. So the next piece, how technologically it's done. So behind the scenes, there is a kind of FHIR AG. I will not go into too many details in this FHIR AG, but think about it as a member enrolls, gives consent, and plan can just do a member match operation. And once it's done, this plan can leverage DaVinci FHIR AG and execute. At this time, still there are three options. It's a query, it's a $ everything operation, and bulk export, even though we think that bulk export will be the better fit, especially when we go towards the direction of exporting data for multiple members. In this case, alternative approach with like queries and $ everything will not be a good kind of fit for this operation. But as of now, still three are options. And behind the scenes, we reuse existing technology, which is important, which is Smart on FHIR, that explains how and which data can be shared and which data cannot be shared. So it's basically technology, how to kind of scope the resources, I mean, the data, how to define the data access, and so on. But overall, on the high level, the schema, the flow is very simple. You find the member and you execute one of these operations to grab the data. There should be some outcome, right? So we go through the process, like from enrollment to payer execution. What is the final goal? The final goal is to get the data from the old plan, in our case, FHIR resources, and possess these FHIR resources. So import them into current plan. After that, the usage of these resources can be kind of like, can fit to any scenario. It can later be a new provider access API call. It can later be patient access API call. It just sits in your FHIR repository at a new plan, and you have latest and greatest data from the old plan. So this UI is basically a demonstration of what we have at Edifecs. So we kind of put provenance on the data that was imported from the previous or past plan. But technically, all these are FHIR resources. And with that, you can reshuffle through those resources, so you can build the UI on top of those resources and just render them. And of course, what is important just from common sense is to track all interactions. So when you execute payer-to-payer, you need to note down information about that. Hey, I've actually connected for this member to this plan. This happens on this date and time. You see kind of what I have here, like requested on this date, received completed on this date. and the status is complete. So actually, I've executed what was required from me as a health plan to grab the data from the previous plan per consent given by this member. This is an outcome that is essential to have, right? And let me move on. So the kind of key considerations here that basically we think that onboarding payers is really important, and one of the questions was asked about how payers know one about another. The discussion continues, and during the connectathons it continues. So we are looking towards certain trusted network, and the latest version of IG also recommends maybe even kind of not only recommends, but forces you to use MTLS to simplify the dynamic client registration. So basically the idea is pretty simple. You just onboard, you find out which other plans are registered there, you register your client IDs and secrets automatically, and you can connect to another plan. So you just need to have some, sort of trusted network where you can do this. And with that, I would like to wrap up, taking into account I wanted to leave some time for any questions and comments. I hope this presentation was useful. I tried to keep it very high level from the business perspective only. If you're interested in technical details, you can contact me directly. I will be really happy to talk about things like tokens, connectivities, and this type of scenarios. So with that, if you have any questions, please, any comments, please go ahead.
Yeah, any questions for Artem? And as well, Michael, can you unmute Kevin Day, if you don't mind? I think he's got a comment.
Already did.
Oh, perfect.
Hope you guys can hear me.
Yes, go
Okay,
ahead, Kevin.
so hey, I'll just add two things to what awesome job, Artem. So Artem and I've been working together here at Edifecs for quite a while and with a number of our clients. Two things I want to point out. One was very subtly in the screen. We kind of gave you a bit of a preview of there's, I think Mark talked about it when it comes to provenance, and there's provenance of the clinical data, but there's also provenance of who the actual previous plan was. So when you're ingesting in it, because you may have situations where individuals bebop around a couple of different plans, possibly, especially on the ACA side, I've seen where they actually have insurance over, a 12-month period where they cross two different plans. So you may be getting content in on a P2P exchange from a multitude of other payers. So being able to know which records came from what payers, that's where the provenance just from the sourcing side, not the clinical provenance aspect of that. That's one thing. The second thing was we as an organization have a sandbox for a number of use cases, including P2P. We welcome you to go ahead and contact us. Artem gave some of the contact information above. We'll be happy to work with you on any kind of P2P testing that you want to do with us.
Appreciate that, Kevin. Doesn't look like we have any questions. Artem, I don't know if you want to make any closing comments.
Yeah, okay. As we don't have any questions, I just want to thank you for all contributions, to everyone who's participating. Still, there are many so hot topics in those discussions, and I appreciate patience, especially Mark's patience on the development of these IGs. And I think we have done, all together, I say we because we also contributed by commenting, a great job, and the scenario becomes more clear, more straightforward, and I hope the newer versions of IGs will be even better. And I really want to encourage you, just give it a try, comment on what is described inside those IGs, and if you see any problems, any concerns, just post your questions. We need more and more feedback on that. So we appreciate kind of any comments from any angles, like whatever experience you have. So I want to thank to each and every participant, and thank you.